Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another nightly Read Aloud with Dr. Ivey. Hard to believe that we are in our 5th week of school closure. It is night 4 of our 5th week. That means that we have been doing our nightly Read Alouds for 24 nights. And today is Thursday, April the 16th, 2020. My name is Trevor Ivey, and I am a very proud educator right here in Sumter County, South Carolina. And like so many of my educator colleagues right here in the Sumter community across our state, the nation, and even the world, are being asked to step up and out of their comfort zone to completely redesign their teaching and learning experiences to make them truly meaningfully engaging during this most unique, challenging time for our children. And to that end, I have committed myself to a nightly Read Aloud, and we have been doing this for 24 nights now. And locally here in Sumter, it is spring break, but we have continued to do our Read Alouds even though it is spring break here because we do have lots of children who are joining us from other parts of the state and around the country. So if you're just tuning in with us for our first night, please know that we start each night around 7:55 with a roll call question. And tonight's roll call question that I ask that you chime in with the comment section below is to ask your child or your children, what do they miss the most about their teacher or teachers? So that kind of gives you a sneak preview of what our book is going to be about tonight. But take a moment to ask your child or your children, what is it that they miss the most about their teachers? And teachers play such a very important and very special role in the lives of children. And I know that children of all ages and at this time are probably missing their teachers and more than any time before during this extended break away from school. So would love to see in the comment section below some of the responses to that question after asking your child. But for our Read Aloud tonight, we have a very special book titled Mrs. Spitzer's Garden. And the author of this book is Edith Pateau, and the pictures are illustrated by Tricia Tusa. And boys and girls, we can look at the front cover of this book, and we can automatically classify this book as a fiction text because the pictures on the front cover, of course, are not real. They are illustrated, and we could tell that this is a made-up story, right? But we have to read a little bit further for the author's purpose. So as we get into our Read Aloud tonight, I want you to think about what you miss about your teacher or teachers. And who is that one special teacher that played such an important role in your life and that you might be really missing right now? Because I'm going to share with you at the end of our Read Aloud who that person is for me. So again, our Read Aloud for tonight, Mrs. Spitzer's Garden. Mrs. Spitzer is a teacher, and she happens to be located in room 108 of Tremont Elementary School. But boys and girls, inside room 108 at Tremont Elementary School, you are going to find 6 tables. 4 of them are in the shape of a circle and 2 are rectangular shape. There is a rug in one corner with real hopscotch squares and checkerboards woven in bright colors. There is also a size chart, a birthday chart, a gerbil in a cage, a housekeeping and dress-up corner, and a row of 22 pegs for coats and backpacks. And in another corner, you're going to find Mrs. Spitzer's desk. Such a clean classroom. Everything looks very organized. At the end of summer, Mr. Merrick, who happens to be the principal of Tremont Elementary School, walks down the hall to Mrs. Spitzer's room and gives her a packet of seeds. Mrs. Spitzer consults her calendar and plans her daily schedule. She checks her tools. I wonder why the principal is giving the teacher a pack of seeds on the last day of school right before summer break. Let's keep reading. Mrs. Spitzer makes sure that the soil is right, that it's light and well drained with plenty of room for sprouting. So then Mrs. Spitzer takes the packet of seeds that the principal gave her and she begins to plant them. Wow, look at how hard Mrs. Spitzer is working, planting those seeds. She waters them and she feeds them. She makes sure that those seeds get plenty of sunlight. And then, boys and girls, before you know it, the seeds begin to sprout. See them sprouting? And as the plants grow, Mrs. Spitzer watches them closely. She checks them every day for weeds and she checks them for pests. Mrs. Spitzer knows that different plants need different things and that each plant has its very own shape. Look at all of those seeds that have sprouted into such beautiful flowers, boys and girls. You see, some of the plants in Mrs. Spitzer's garden grow very quickly and they push upward. They're eager. They're impatient. But some of the plants grow more slowly, unfolding themselves bit by bit. Some of the plants sprout thin and others sprout very tall. Some are bushy and wide-spreading. Some are bold and they are very showy. They are brightly colored, saying, "Look at me!" And some of the seeds are silvery. They're quiet, the color of Mother Earth. Look at all those different plants. And none of them are the exact same. A few are like wildflowers, and they will grow anywhere you put them. And some of them need gentle care. They need a special watching over. But boys and girls, as the seasons change, Mrs. Spitzer starts to tend to her garden. And then before you know it, the year is over and her job is done. But boys and girls, even though the job is done, the plants will keep growing, uncurling their stems, stretching their leaves outward, and showing their faces to the sun. And then Mrs. Spitzer puts away her tools, she puts away her daily calendar, and she puts away her plan book. Soon another year will start at Tremont Elementary, and Mr. Merrick will once again walk down the hall with a new packet of seeds for Mrs. Spitzer. She will then dust off her tools and she will till the soil. She's getting her classroom ready. Do you see, boys and girls? And a new garden begins. Wasn't that a very special book called Mrs. Spitzer's Garden? So to summarize our book for tonight, the main character, her name is Mrs. Spitzer. She is a very wise teacher and she knows many, many things. And one of the things that she knows a lot about is a garden. But she also knows a lot about children. After all, she's a teacher. But the one thing that she knows that is similar from being a teacher is that they're both going to flourish if you tend them very lovingly. Can you think of some examples from the book where she is showing how you tend to the plants very lovingly? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Some of the examples that you're thinking about, that I'm thinking about, is all of the tender love and care that Mrs. Sptizer provided to the plants, the water, the good soil, the sunlight. Those are all ingredients that make a plant grow very strong. But boys and girls, everyday life, she is a teacher during the school year. There are lots of remarkable teachers out there just like Mrs. Sptizer in the world. And this book is a great example for us to stop and think, even though we have been out of school, away from school for 24 days, having to do our learning at home during this very challenging time, let's stop and think about how our teachers feel. Because boys and girls, I bet you that they are missing you a whole lot. I know they are. They are missing you like crazy. And I bet many of you are missing your teacher or your teachers very crazy. Because just like Mrs. Sptizer does in her book, you have to also provide into the teaching and learning experience to make it great at school. You have to do your part. You have to do your work. You have to be respectful. You have to demonstrate achievement and follow all of the teacher's expectations so that you can grow just like the plants and flowers did in this beautiful story. So let's think about to the question I asked you in the very beginning. Do you remember that question, boys and girls? Who is that teacher in your life that was like Mrs. Sptizer? What are some that teacher? Well, I want to take a moment to tell you a few things about the teachers that I think about. And I'm actually going to show you a picture. So this is the picture of my first grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Ski. And boys and girls, first grade was a rough year for Dr. Ivey. Didn't think I was actually going to make it through first grade. I had a lot of learning challenges in first grade. But this lady right here, Mrs. Ski, she never gave up on me. And she worked very closely with my mom to make sure that I was ready to go at the end of the year to second grade. And for that, I will always be grateful to Mrs. Ski because she's very much like Mrs. Sptizer, and I was her plant. She gave me all the water, the sunlight, and the tender love and care that I needed to be successful. And then as I got older, another teacher that was kind of like Mrs. Sptizer was Mrs. Smith. She was my fifth grade teacher. And she was very much like Mrs. Sptizer because she never gave up on me either, even though I was a different kind of student. I always tried to impress Mrs. Smith. And, you know, I think today we call those students teachers' pets. And she always insisted that she never had a teacher's pet. But I sure did my best to show her that I really wanted to be just like her when I grew up. I wanted to be a teacher. And when I think about the role that she has played in my career as a teacher, I often think about just the impact she made on me and how many things that I learned as a student in her class. And I still remember the way that she taught math and the tests that we always took on Fridays, some of the very special things that she did to create a community in the classroom. I actually took those ideas into my very own classroom. And so my first grade teacher, Mrs. Ski, and my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Smith, are the two teachers that I have selected that are like Mrs. Sptizer. So boys and girls, before we say goodnight, before we go and wash our hands and we brush our teeth and get in the bed, let us reflect on this day together. So you remember our 4 questions that we ask every night to end our Read Aloud. We're going to ask those questions again tonight. So question number 1, what was your most favorite part about today? Take a moment to share with your parent, your older or younger sibling, or your fuzzy friend. And what was your most favorite part about today? Question number 2, what was your least favorite part about today? Question number 3, if you could change one thing about today, what would you change? And finally, boys and girls, question number 4, what is one thing that you hope will happen tomorrow? All right, boys and girls, that concludes our nightly Read Aloud with Dr. Ivey. I hope that you all had a great day today. I hope that you get a great night's rest. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow on our final night of the 5th week of our nightly Read Alouds during school closure. Remember, if no one has taken the opportunity to tell you that they love you today, if no one has told you that they care about you today, Dr. Ivey is here to tell you that he loves you and he cares for you so very much. Have a good night, everybody.